Okay, Bruchim Abayim Dir Chabura, going through Kol HaTorah Kula with the Rambam in our lead as we move along one Perek per day, and we are in Sefer Ava. We're learning various things that Chacham have instituted in order for us to continuously remember and as benchmarks to stop and think about our Ava, our love to the Eibishter. And we are in Hilchas Krishma, actually the final Perek of Hilchas Krishma, Perek Dalid, and the Rambam is actually going to discuss those that are potter. And I want to preface that Krias Shema, be'etzem the nekuda of Krias Shema, is Kabol Sol Malchus Shemayim in the first parsha. The second, that means you accept the yoke of the Eibishter as our king. The second parsha is Kabbalas Oil Mitzvahs, to accept on ourselves specifically the commandments that he has directed us and commanded us to do. And the third parsha is, as we'll see, also the Chiv of Krishma, Mitzvahs Chiras Yitzias Mitzrayim, and Tzitzis. Okay, so because it requires Kavana to be Mekabel Ol Malchus Shemayim, in Doiros HaRishonim there were certain instances in which we said don't be a fake. If you can't focus, don't do it. That's A. B, as we'll see, certain people that generally, as a rule of thumb that we discussed already earlier, are potter from mitzvah seishas man grama, mitzvahs, various mitzvahs asay, that are dependent on a time frame. They're also potter from Krias Shema because Krias Shema is b'shach becha and of kumecha, the time when people get up and go to sleep. So let's see it inside Halacha Aleph. Noshim ba'avodim uktanim, women, slaves, and children, pturim mikriyas Shema, they are potter from Krias Shema. They have other responsibilities. However, we do train in children to read Krias Shema in its proper time, and we make a bracha. They also make the bracha Birkas Krias Shema, as we'll see in Dinei Tefillah. Chachamim instituted Shtayim Lefaneh and Achas Lachareh in the morning, and by Shachris, and by Ubeshach Becha, by Krias Shema by night, Shtayim Lefaneh, Shtayim Lachareh. And we do this with children as well. I want to point out that there's a tremendous chassid in Lubavitch. His name was Reb Pinya Korf. I was able to learn with him Chavrusa, L'kutei Teira Shir HaShirim, when I was a newlywed, and it was in the summer. There was no yeshiva. I asked him if we could learn, and he went as far as coming to my house and come to learn with me. Very, very special schos that I had, and very special time to recount. He told me then that he asked the Rebbe which inyanim to be madrich his children, to be mechanech them, and the Rebbe said other inyanim are not as negea, certain things he brought up. However, the Rebbe said Krias Shema bizmana, l'chora, based on this Rambam, is important to be madrich them. They should wake up in time for Krias Shema. I want to add to that an interesting thing that years later I had the schos of teaching the shir of Shloisha Prakim Rambam that many chassidim use today, and I mentioned this story based on this Rambam. A year later, when this recording on that day came about, was the Ptira of Reb Pinya Korf. So it's very, very special for me to mention this halacha. It should be Le'ili Nishmasa, and we should continuously learn from his unbelievable Kabbalas Oil and Hanhaga of a Chassid. I remember watching him do Krishma Shalamita, making a real cheshbon and nefesh. I was once in his house. It was very, very, very special chassid and a role model for many of us chassidim in Deir Hashvi. So, back to our inyanim over here. Now, Misha Elibe Tarud v'nechbas l'dvar mitzvah. A person is preoccupied, or he's very hurried. He's rushed to do a mitzvah, and at the end of the day, he's not focused. He's not have the enough focus to be mekabel malchus shemayim. Potter mikola mitzvahs. That patters him ha'oisik b'mitzvah pater min mitzvah umi Krias Shema, between them also Krias Shema. Lefichach, for this reason, chasan shenasa psula, a chasan that married a virgin, a girl that was never married before. Being that we'll see soon, his mind is occupied to make sure that she was taka virgin. Pater mi Krias Shema achi avolah. He's pater from Krias Shema until they actually come to do the mitzvah. Lefisha ein daite pnuya. His mind is not available enough to properly be mekabel ol malchus shemayim. Shemel yimtzal psulim. Maybe he'll find that she wasn't in Gans to be sedarf. Now ve'im shad matzah Shabbos. However, if we know psila nisas liyem aravi, so Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Shabbos, and he still didn't have a chance to be together at that point, v'loy baal, if it's Matzah Shabbos already, it's moving into the fifth day, chayiv likros Matzah Shabbos, v'elu from Matzah Shabbos and onward, he already has to read, sharei niskara daitoi, he's not so precious, he got to know her, and he's not pressured. He's going to maintain this relationship. And he's not occupied with that enough to distract him from being Mekabel Mal Shemaim. Halacha base. Aval, this is specifically if he married a woman that was never married. Aval noises if he married a woman that was already married previously, either she was divorced or widowed. Even though he's also obviously doing a mitzvah. However, chayiv likrois hoyil ve'ein davar shebal daite. This is not distraction for him. V'chein kol k'eitzav. Any other similar scenario that we're going to mention, if he's not distracted, he should read Krias Shema. The exception to this rule, be'etzem, as we'll see, is a oinin. A oinin is someone that a close relative of his passed away, and he didn't have a chance to bury him yet. In that case, then even though he may think he has das, it's a zilzal, I think, in the mace, and he should not read Krias Shema begoli beparhesia. Halacha gimel misha meis lemeis shu chayiv l'sabel. If someone passed away, the type of person that he mitzad the close family relation is chayiv to mourn him. Pater min Krias Shema achik berno. He's pater from Krias Shema until that person is buried. Why? His mind's not available to lane. If he's not the one mourning or going to be mourning, but he is guarding the mace, there's something called shmir l'mace. Even though it's not his, so to speak, family member that's deceased, pater min Krias Shema is also pater. What happens if there are two people guarding? At that point, they should swap. When one of them is guarding, the other one goes and slips away and lanes. The comes back to read, and then the other way around. The other one slips away and reads, and the first one is back on guard. Same deal as a person digging a burial plot for someone that passed away. Potter Mikrias Shema, he's also Potter from Krias Shema because he's busy with Tzarchei HaMeis, and the Alter Rebbe points out that even while he's resting, he's also Potter. It's part of the mitzvah. I want to go back that what I mentioned earlier, that a chassan, if he's marrying a psula, he doesn't have to read until he does the mitzvah. This is b'deres harishonim, that they were mechaven ol malchus shemayim properly. In today's day, being that in our generations the kabbalah ol malchus shemayim is not as strong to begin with, we don't go by that anymore, and everyone reads Krias Shema afterwards. Halacha dalet. Ein moitzin sameis lekovroi samach lazman Krias Shema. We don't party with this halacha. We don't take him out samach lazman Krias Shema where people won't have the opportunity and they want to be malava the mace and be from those that are digging or those that are holding, as we'll soon see, those that are holding or those that lamita tzorich yes tzorich bam. The mita needs their service and their help. So they're part of Krias Shema. We don't want to put people in that circumstance they'll override Krias Shema, even though that is the halacha. Don't take him out samach Krias Shema. Ela im kain haya adam gadol. Unless this was a great person. Now the Alter Rebbe, if I remember correctly, says that this is specifically by Krias Shema in the morning, but Krias Shema by night, it's fine. Now, even if they transgressed, they didn't notice what time it was. It's in terrible times that Yidden Leider went through, and now's the time to bury. Otherwise, it's going to become too late, and the authorities are not coming. So you go his chilu v'itziu higias man kriya. All the people that we're about to mention will be potter. Those that are escorting the mace. But anyone that the mita, which means the bed on which they're carrying or the stretcher on which they're carrying the mace, or the aron, needs their assistance. Those that are actually holding the coffin. Those that are standing the line closest to them that are ready to swap and come to their aid. And the double swap. Those the second shura that are not holding, but they're ready to take over the first shura, which are ready to take the one over those that are actually holding. These three lines, bein shar lifnei amita, bein shar lachar mita, regardless of where they're standing in the rectangular position, I'm saying around the rectangle of the mita, doesn't matter. Pturim, they're potter. Ushar hamalavim, the rest of the malavim, she'ein la mita tzorich ben, that the mita does not require their escorting chayavin. We'll soon see that in certain cases, mitzad bizoyin hameis, they are still needed, as we'll see. Now, hayu oiskim behespid, this is the example. If they were in the middle of eulogizing the mace, vigezman krishma, in the middle of darshaning how special he was, bisman shameis munach lefneim, if the mace is there, lying before them, then we don't say let's go disperse the whole crowd and the mace is going to be left alone. That's not very respectful. And therefore, what we say is nishmatim echad echad echad, one at a time slips away, reads and comes back. V'chayzun lahespin, comes back to the eulogy. The Eina Mace Model of name, if the mace is not before them, rather, they're eulogizing the second room far away. It's a big chashuv person passed away. Kolam, they pause. Everybody together reads Krishma. The Eibush is covered. Va'avol Yosef Daimim. Obviously, the mourner sits in silence. He's an einel fisha ena chayav likros until he's actually buried. He's not chayav to read. Halacha vav. Kavrus hameis. Once they already buried the mace, v'chazra avelim mekabel tanchumim, and the avelim already went back to be mekabel tanchum. That's after they started rig ve'adama. There's halachas in this regard, as we'll see in Echas Avelos. So what would happen is the people would finish and run ahead of the avelim and make two shuras in which the avelim, so again, they left the burial place, they ran ahead of the avelim that turned back to walk away, and they would form two lines that the avelim would go in the middle, and they would give what we call birkas tanchumin. They would bless them that they should be consoled milamayla, and they would answer to nuchamo and accept this condolences. So in that case, the rest of the congregation goes behind them. Everyone's going behind them to reach the place where at that point they're going to form the two lines. They should chaparain before they reach the shura, because once they reach the shura, they're starting to be Mekai. They've finished being Mekayim halvoyas hameis, and they're going to begin to be Mekayim tanchumin, right? So if they could chaperayim before they form the shura, yaschil, they should start even the first pasuk, and they're good. Being lav, however, if they're not able to, lo yaschil, don't start. Don't do a half a job. El yinachmos avelim, they should console those mourners. Va'achar she'ipotru mehem, once they pass and they've already set them off and consoled them, yaschil likers, they start reading. Now, pnei adam ha'imdu b'shura pnimim, over here, those that are standing in the first line, the closest to the avelim, the mourners that are walking by, they are the ones, she'im roim pnei avelim, they are the ones that throughout the duration of their walk through are pater mikrishma. However, v'chitzainim, unlike we said about the mitzvah yesh tzorich, the second shura, the third shura, these people, hoylein and roim avelim, at the end of the day, they're standing behind people and they don't see the avelim. Chayavin b'krishma b'mkoyim, they're chayiv, they're obligated to read krishma in their place. Halacha zayin kol mishu pater milagros krishma. Any person that we have mentioned that is pater, he is exempt from reading krishma. Imratzal hachmer al atzma. If he decided he wants to be stringent, likroi koira, read adraba. Who, however, stay a daite pnuya olav, his mind should be available. That's why he's deciding that he's an exception to the rule. However, aval im hayazah pater milikrois mevuhal, if he's also mished, this person that we have exempt, he cannot read until his mind settles and he'll makabel al properly. Note the Raiva disagrees with this. Halacha ches. Kol atmeim chayavim bekrishma. And now we're talking about a spiritual tumah. We spoke in last Perek about people that are not clean pashas and how they have to cleanse themselves and the place and the like. Now we're talking about a spiritual tumah. The fact that you're a person, let's say a woman in his man abayis, she gave birth, just tmei yoldis, tmei zava, nida, whatever it is. A woman is pater from krishma, but a man with these type of tumas, he touched a mace, or he touched a carcass, or whatever it is. Chayavim bekrishma is chayiv, umevarchen lefanav achran is chayiv. Also the brachas which are the rabbanon, they were nispach to the dairaisa. Chachamim connected them; they have that same status. Behein betumasan, while they're in their state of tumah. Even though they have the ability to push off the tumah, to push off reading krishma, wait till they toivel, come back out, and they'll still be within the time frame and read. We don't push off mitzvah stam, mitzvah bali yadcha, and we tell them within your tumah you can still do it. Keep going, for example, noigim b'sheretz, while they touch the sheretz, or he touched the nida, vizava, umishkava, this tumah yoytzim igufam, is very chamor, or tam mishkava moishav, as the Rambam is going to refer to them later on in Hilchos Tara. So very stringent tumah, but kayetzaban, we still say no need to run and toivel and then read bitumas. Now, Ezra Beis Dina made a specific takana. They didn't want Talmid Chacham should be mitzuyin etzel l'shasayim too much, and therefore they made a takana that specific tumah of keri, a person that has seminal discharge, he shouldn't read divrei Torah or read krishma when he's in his tumah. So they were metakin shlo yikra b'divrei Torah bal keri levad. Only about keri. This tumah is different, an exception to the rule, and he should not read. They have, so to speak, taken him out of the general rule that Tmeim are allowed to read. This is specifically Divrei Torah. This has not been accepted widespread throughout Bnei Yisrael, and it was not in the potential, the majority of the congregation, to withhold and withstand this takana, this decree of Chazal, and therefore lefichach batla. Not pshat they were mevatel because Yidden couldn't do it. It never took hold lechatchila, and therefore it's batal. Okvar nagu kol Yisrael likras b'Torah. It's the widespread meaning to read Torah of a likras krishma bein bali kroin while being bali kroin. We know that the Baal Shem Tov, it was established for Chassidim, and the Pri Megadim brings it, that there's a lot of place to be machmer, and it's the yisoidus of skula for kavana and davening, and for kedusha and tara and prishus. However, halachically, bali kroin lefisha ein divrei Torah makabel and tuma. Divrei Torah do not accept tuma. The Rambam finishes with a bringing in hilchas. He concludes hilchas krishma, saying Divrei Torah not makabel tuma lo oimdim and tarasim loyal. They will forever maintain their tara, their purity throughout all circumstances. Shenemar haloi koi dvara ke'esh. My words, says the Eibishter, are like fire, no Hashem. Just as fire, the flames cannot be mekabel tuma, even if it burnt a carcass, for example, if you touched the flame. Av divrei Torah ain't mekabel tuma. The words of Torah not mekabel tuma. V'shatei v'maslachas mazel tov slick hilchas krishma. We have concluded hilchas krishma and the first series of halachas within the second sefer of Ava. May we continue growing in our love of the Eibishter and our great knowledge of the entire Torah Sheba'al Peh, which we are lucky to be gifted, the Mishnah Torah, the Viceroy to Torah, through Rabbeinu Moshe ben Maimon HaSfardi, the Gadol, HaNesher HaGadol, the great eagle. Yishakoyach, I want to make mention of something very important I forgot to mention earlier. One of the Einiklach of Harav Pinchas Korf is our dear producer, Reb Levi Nemirovsky. Yishakoyach Reb Levi for all that you do.